tray from Jamie Ray Vintage. Today's DIY is a 3-tiered tray made out of old cake plates along with some scrap wood from our old busted pile. We added an antique knob and made a gorgeous display. It's a collaboration with YouTube Mommy Meetup. Be sure to check the link below so that way you can see the other videos for all of our homemade Christmas ideas. Every day in the month of November is going to have a different idea for you to make your homemade Christmas. Watch our video and see how we put this gorgeous 3-tiered tray together. The tools you're going to need are a pair of vice grips, screwdriver, needle nose pliers, sanding block with 80 grit sandpaper, and then I also have some drill bits and a screw. We like to use Gorilla Glue. It holds together really well. And we also have dowel screws. They're 1/4 inch by 2 inch dowel screws. That's what holds together the tiers. Our salvaged materials are 3 old cake pans from our local thrift store, an old antique knob that we have in our knob bin, and then we also have a big thick piece of wood. You could really use any piece of wood, but this is what we had. This is from an old desktop that we salvaged. And then we have an old table leg from a table that wasn't very sturdy, but we saved the leg. We're also gonna be using our drill. Our first step is gonna be to take our salvaged piece of wood and we're gonna cut it down to size into a square, just a little bit larger than our cake pan. We're also gonna router the edge. The next thing we're gonna do is take our salvaged leg here, and it's got this weird ledge from where it hooked to the table. We're gonna cut this flush so it's straight all the way across, and then we're gonna chop it into 6-inch increments for our tiers. We've got our base cut down. We are going to router the edges. If you didn't have a router, you could use your sandpaper and just sand the edges to give it a nice smooth edge. To cut it down, we used our chop saw, but you could use your table saw or your handheld saw, whatever you have handy. You can kind of see that it's just a little bit bigger than our cake round here. We've got a little bit of edges on the side poking out. Okay, so we're gonna take our Depths Fairy Chalk Mother single step paint and paint our pieces. I'm using my zebra brush. You can see it's one that I use often. It's got lots of different colors on it. The nice thing about Fairy Chalk Mother paint is there's no prep involved. So we've washed these pieces to get all the dirt off, and we're just gonna go ahead and paint them. Our next step is we're gonna take our sanding block with our 80 grit sandpaper and we're gonna distress our piece. I'm just gonna take my sandpaper and run it along and smooth out our piece, and then go along the edges. Now that our painted pieces are painted and distressed, we need to seal them. You could seal it with a clear wax, but I'm going to use a water-based polyurethane. If you use this tiered tray for food, chances are you may be scrubbing it a little, so a polyurethane is going to hold up to some abuse and is easily wipeable. I'm using a water-based polyurethane and I poured it into a separate dish. It's really important that you don't dip your brush directly into your polyurethane, because if any particles get into your polyurethane, it'll contaminate your can, and then anything else you paint may or may not have paint dust in it. That's especially annoying when you're doing a stain and you're polyurethaning it and you're getting paint in your stain. And vice versa, if you're staining something and then you want to paint it white and you're using that same polyurethane that you dipped your brush down into, it'll yellow your pieces. So always pour out your poly and then dip from there. I'm using a fine bristle brush made for polyurethane that will reduce any lines that'll be left on there. I'm just gonna do nice even strokes and seal it. The next step in our process is going to be drilling and putting in the dowel screws to hook everything together. The easiest way I found to find the center of my cake plates is to trace the cake plate. Then I'm going to cut it out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but mostly even. Okay, once you've got your cake plate cut out, you're going to fold it in half. And then you're going to fold it in half again. where their lines intersect, you've got the middle of your cake plate. Take your cake plate, flip it over, put your pattern on, and then you're going to take your pencil, poke it through, and make a mark. Then we know where we're at. Now that we've got our mark on here, we're going to drill through the middle. We're going to do the same thing with all 3 of our cake plates. Bam! The next step we're going to do is we're going to drill our center wood dowel pieces. They're going to go in between our cake tiers. On the piece on the bottom where it's square, I just did an X to find the middle. And then on the round pieces, I did the same technique that I did on the cake plates, where I just traced it, folded it a couple times, and then found the middle. I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to drill down about 1 inch. You're going to want to make sure that your drill is completely up and down, because if you drill at an angle, you're going to have the Leaning Tower of Pisa instead of a tray that goes up and down the way that it's supposed to. Now that we've drilled all of our holes, we're going to assemble our tiered tray. We drilled the hole specifically because we didn't want our wood to split. If you just screw into the wood, chances are your wood's going to split, and it's also going to make it a lot harder to put in your dowel screws. We have our vice grips clamped on the middle of our dowel screws on the part that doesn't have any threading. We're going to take it and put it in our hole, and we're just going to screw it in. Once you get to the middle of the screw, you know you've gone in far enough. So we're going to take our Gorilla Glue, and about 1 inch from the edge, we're going to make a circle. That'll help hold it down. The Gorilla Glue is going to expand, so you want to go no closer than 1 inch. Now we're going to screw this on here. It's not going to go tight, but once you reach the bottom, then you can add the first part of your tier. We're going to take this square part and put it on the bottom. Screw it on. So we've got that on there nice and tight. We're going to add our next tier by putting in our screw. We're going to screw this in just the way we did before. We're ready to add our next tiered tray, so I'm going to take my glue. And this one is not as wide, so we're going to go about 1/2 inch in and just add a couple drops. This one is kind of like the odd man out, so we'll put it in the middle. Now it's flush, we'll add our next piece. And added the last cake plate the same way that I did the other 2. The last thing I'm going to do is add my knob to the top. We went ahead and drilled an extra wide hole in the top that will fit the head of our screw down in it, and we're going to put a bunch of Gorilla Glue. I would say at least 4 or 5 drops. You're going to put a little bit across the top to hold down the knob. I'm really excited to use this in the center of my table this Christmas to display ornaments and treats. Be sure to check the link below for all the YouTube Mommy Meetup lineup. The whole month of November, we're going to have amazing videos showing you how to have a handmade, homemade Christmas. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and like Jamie Ray Vintage for more DIY.